So Swamp Things, my first review back, like proper review. By the way, I uploaded a 5, 6, 7, and 8 review yesterday. Check that out in the cards above if you missed it. But anyway, this episode 9, the anatomy lesson, was probably my favorite episode. No jokes. It was a big moment in the comics playing out on screen. Just wow. So let's get into this review of episode 9, the anatomy lesson. What is up, Swamp Things? Welcome to a brand new review. Feels so good saying that. I know I said that in yesterday's video, but it feels good saying it again because this is a proper review. I am here for when the episode airs. This should be up on the Friday. I don't see why it wouldn't be. But I'm really over the moon because, you know, I had all the lights turned down and everything like that for this episode of Swamp Things because I knew it was going to be a good one. Made sure the mood was right, so to speak, and it was epic. Like in this episode, guys, we had the anatomy lesson, like literally the anatomy lesson. You guys, like Swamp Thing fans before the show came out, know exactly what that means. Some of you new fans who were just watching DC Universe may have heard of Swamp Thing, might be stumbling across this being like WTF when we got that revealed towards the end of the episode. But also this episode introduced the actual Blue Devil, and it was epic. So before I blubber all of my thoughts out right at the beginning, subscribe to this channel for more DC Universe videos just like this, including Titan Season 2 and all that good stuff and updates and, you know, all the good stuff. And go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. And thank you guys once again for showing your support for this channel, just in terms of DC Universe stuff. So after the end of last episode, guys, Swampy was delivered to a remote location. And I'm pretty sure in that, like, towards the beginning of the episode, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong here, that Jason Woodrew's wife was talking about, you know, when she was talking about having that nightmare, that she was seeing Jason. You know, she thought she saw Jason on the floor, but when she went to go and see who it was a monster. Now, even though this zoomed in on Alec Collins, Swamp Thing's face, I think she was kind of low-key teasing, or like the writers here were teasing the Floronic Man. Now, I've said, without getting into big spoiler territory there, even though I'm not going to go on too much about that, but I didn't know if we were going to get him this season regarding Jason Woodrew. Just because of the episode cut down from 13 to 10, etc., etc. But I'm hoping after, you know, the way things are going, especially after the end of this episode and how far Jason is going, and after what happens right at the end, he's going to be well into his work, more than what he ever has done before. They might leave it on a cliffhanger with the Floronic Man. I could be wrong, but that is a nice way to end it in the terms of it wants us wanting more, even though we want a season 2 anyway. Hopefully it will just start another uprising of people wanting season 2, but I just wanted to throw that in there anyway. Let me know if you think she was on about Swamp Thing, or was she predicting in her nightmare her husband as the Floronic Man. Up next is Daniel Cassidy wakes up in hospital. If you guys remember, he was burning up and everything like that after, you know, being injected with the, you know, basically after Jason Woodrew's involvement. But he was kind of recovering back in hospital. Xanadu was helping relieve his pain. But the interesting thing, when he wakes up, the Phantom Stranger is there. And this was just so intriguing to me with what his involvement was in this episode. Just because this is quite a little bit different from the comic books in terms of the very traditional, canon traditional story of the Blue Devil. But not that I haven't enjoyed this. It's a really new, innovative way of doing it. And just seeing that interview the other day with the guy who plays Daniel Cassidy and how he felt getting the role of playing a superhero, I don't blame him for being this excited. This episode was amazing for him. It really, really was. But, you know, moving on, essentially the Phantom Stranger shows Daniel, Liz and Abby Arcane trying to find Swampy, but getting shot to death, and he explains how this is only one possible future, and Daniel Cassidy can make it this future, this present, going forward, if you will, the one where he saves them, and only he can do it. So guys, Future Boba here, just gonna borrow you for a few seconds. I just want to apologize for the upcoming audio issues I have in the rest of the review. I think it lasts for about another 5 minutes or something. They're little audio blips, so don't think that's your device or anything like that. It should be fine if you're not listening to headphones, not that noticeable, but I'm sorry either way, it's a bit annoying. So understandably, Cassidy was, you know, very bewildered. Like, to be fair to him, like, this has been a crazy ride already. He didn't really want to sign up for it, but obviously he cares about Abby and Liz. And you know, the Phantom Stranger said only he can save him, and it's not up to him. Like, he can't get involved. But that's when Daniel picks up the mask, and it kind of like imbues him with the physicality of the Blue Devil, with the powers and everything. I mean, technically that process had already started. I think when he was obviously burning up and all of that good stuff. Well, bad stuff or whatever way you want to view it. Kind of bad for Daniel, I guess. But when he looked into that mask, that's when the transformation happened. And guys, I was loving this. And so guys, the anatomy lesson begins with Jason Woodrue quite literally opening Swamp Thing up. And so he was narrating the dissection of Swampy, as you kind of do in an autopsy, if you will. But you know, I felt so bad for Swamp Thing, or Alec Holland, whatever way you want to put it, when he woke up. Like the acting there, like through makeup, is what I'm loving about this. Usually that much makeup and prosthetics really restricts your facial expressions, but throughout this whole scene, I felt so bad for him. Like, normally I see this stuff on TV so much. If you're watching so much TV, you're kind of a bit desensitized to it. That kind of makes me sound messed up. But do you know what I mean? Like, in this moment, you know, when he was even saying, like, I feel everything, and Jason was just like, oh, that can't be possible because you don't have any nerve receptors or pain receivers or whatever that I can decipher. And, you know, and as Swamp Thing said later, to Avery and Jason Woodrue, I was just a specimen. And every way he was saying these lines, understandably, was very, very depressing. But for those of you who had no idea what was coming after this, I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. But this is where the comments began, where Woodrue was saying things like, you know, no human lungs, no human heart, it doesn't contract, it doesn't pump blood, none of the organs serve any function, and this basically leads us to the definitive Swamp Thing explanation, from the anatomy lesson that we were seeing taking place before our eyes. And I would love to know what the comic book fans think as well, because I thought that this was done so very well. It was extremely iconic. So Jason Woodrue goes on to explain, as he was basically tripping up over himself in his fascination for like taking out the lungs that serve no purpose and this and that and the other, through how, you know, Swamp Thing believed that the disease that affected Marai's citizens made him into what he is. You know, that what we saw in previous episodes, you know, he believes he's Alec Holland. He thought what's happened to him was a more extreme version of the other people who were also infected. After the explosion, Alec's body must have mixed in with the mutagenic plant matter, and somehow the plants absorbed Alec Holland's memories through like absorbing the body and you know, the tissue and all of that stuff, which essentially led the plant matter to absorb his consciousness, if you will. And obviously, like, the human brain and consciousness would kind of remember having lungs, a heart, arms, legs, and so the plants, as Jason Woodrue said himself, did their best to replicate, you know, that. Because Alec's consciousness was absorbed, it made him appear humanoid. He could have, in theory, if he thought that he was a hat, that the plant would have tried its best to replicate this hat. Do you know what I mean? Imagine a walking Swamp Thing hat. I mean, that's basically the explanation. I didn't even need to do that. But ultimately, the bottom line here, guys, is that he's not a man at all. He is quite literally a plant with Alec Holland's memories. He's not human. There's no human to him at all. But that's what, you know, after talking about this very early on in my Swamp Thing videos, I saw comments of people saying, but that's what Swamp Thing's all about. And I wholeheartedly agree in the sense of the character Swamp Thing. It's like, you know, what does it mean to be human? I mean, of course, to be human, you have to be human in a way, but this is plant matter living with human memories and everything that makes a human. Like, what makes a human human? Is it our flesh, our fingers, our bones, what we're made up of, or is it like who we are? And, you know, I think hopefully that's what episode 10 is going to explore even more, because obviously Swamp Thing is in complete depression now in the terms of realizing that he's not a man, but I argue, and I'm sure Abby will argue, that he is. Like, he's still Alec Holland. So this moment was really cool as well, because this is where Abby was finding Swamp Thing, and the plants were kind of paving the way in the right direction. But this also led us up to the moment where the Phantom Stranger showed that to Daniel Cassidy beforehand in the hospital, where they got shot to death. But this is where the Blue Devil arrived, and my god, was this so cool. You know, I thought the effects were decent. The Blue Devil himself, he looked great. I was just so happy seeing this finally unfold. As I said in yesterday's video, I love that they've taken their time. I don't like rushed things, but it's also bittersweet because we're getting him in episode 9 fully fledged. But basically, he messes everyone up using like that blue fire of his, melting everyone with his face as well, like his fire breath. It was just so cool. I also found it really cool how in this iteration Daniel Cassidy woke up like naked on the floor and the blood of his victims, if you will. And you know, I was kind of hoping for that. I really wanted to see the Blue Devil, and I keep wanting to see him, don't get me wrong, but I also wanted him to have that kind of human form as well, where traditionally in the comics, like, he's, you know, locked in that mode as Blue Devil. I think this is a much kind of better way to you know, see the actor and, you know, without all that heavy makeup as well, which may have had something to do with it as well in terms of putting that makeup on all the time. It is a lot. But revisiting Swampy for just a second, this is where he goes back to the swamp because he has to learn the truth for himself. He almost didn't want to believe it, goes in the swamp and literally brings something from the comics to life in the terms of how he brings out Alec Holland's body. Just reiterating the fact of what I just said in terms of, you know, Alec Holland is dead. But, you know, he is, but he isn't, but he is. Like, I'll let that debate go on with you guys down in the comments below. That is Swamp Thing still Alec Holland too. I am on the train of he is. But, you know, he's going to have to come to accept that himself. You know, and we've only got one episode for that, I guess. And I don't know how far we're going to get with that, but we're going to have to wait and see. Other quick scenes showed Matt Cable getting into a car accident. I'm not sure, unless I'm forgetting something, what they're going to do there. We also had Jason Woodrue arrive home with like the little cooler boxes of Swamp Thing's fake organs, if you will. And I'm sure he can make a lot of cell mutagenic, you know, regeneration thingies. But this was very tragic at the same time because his wife with Alzheimer's took all of her medication. Now, I'm wondering if she's really going to die here, and that's going to drive him forward to go head over heels into Floronic Man development mode, or if at any cost, if she's in a coma after this, he's going to just, you know, inject her like he did with the Blue Devil serum-y kind of stuff with Daniel Cassidy, but do that to his wife, and something bad might happen to her. We're going to have to wait and see with how this unfolds. Obviously, as I always say, this is an adaptation and it can be done a teeny bit different. And guys, as well, I saved this bit for the last because it just didn't fit in so well with the other parts. But obviously, earlier on in the episode, we had Avery commit Maria to a psychiatric institute. So, you know, we were all expecting something, I'm sure, with Avery surviving that. And she was shook when she saw him, but I didn't actually expect that, which is, you know, quite an interesting move on his part because it fits in with all of the stress and stuff she's been under before. But she said it's not over. And, you know, obviously, well, if we would have got more seasons, we would have had more of her in it for sure. I'm just really hoping they show a few of her cards that she has to play in this last episode. We've got so much that needs to happen, I feel, in this last episode. This is why, at the very least, with it being cancelled, we should have been given those 3 episodes extra back. They had to probably cut so much. Imagine what they could have, even, as I said, even without season 2, imagine what more satisfaction we could have got with just 3 more episodes. But other than that, guys, absolutely great episode. I think it's my favorite just because it did everything that I've wanted to see this season, including the Blue Devil and the anatomy lesson, and just really going head over heels into that. Like, they really got their fingers stuck in terms of in the story, with Jason Woodrue finally getting his hands being so on Swamp Thing, being so close to, you know, getting what he wants. It's just like, I feel like we're all getting what we want here, being in the penultimate episode. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Yeah, it just sucks to say that this was, you know, it's the finale next week. Other than that, everyone, leave a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more DC Universe videos. Join my Discord server if you want to talk about Swamp Thing with me directly. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Swamp Things in the next video. Goodbye.